Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, oh.
Hello everybody and welcome to my review of Hidden Figures, directed by Theodore Melfi. So, the basic plot of Hidden Figures is that it's based on a true story. As the United States race against Russia to put a man in space, NASA found untapped talent in a group of African-American female mathematicians that served as the brains behind one of the greatest operations in the US history. Based on the unbelievably true life stories of three of these women, known as human computers, we followed these women as they quickly rose the ranks of NASA alongside many of the history's greatest minds, specifically tasked with calculating the momentous launch of astronaut John Glen into orbit and guaranteeing his safe return. Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Johnson crossed all gender, race, and professional lines, while their brilliance and desire to dream big, beyond anything ever accomplished before by the human race, firmly cemented them in the US history as true American heroes. That is basically the plot of Hidden Figures. Okay, Hidden Figures. I went into this movie not really knowing what to expect because, I'd seen the adverts for it and I thought it looks pretty interesting. I mean, this isn't necessarily my type of movie. I really watched this just to discuss it with my college tutor because I know that it's a film that she will like, being a black woman herself. So, yeah, I thought I'd take a look at this movie and, yeah, it's good. I like this film. I think it was good. I can't say it's anything groundbreaking, but it's definitely quite fun. Well, that's the praise I can give it, is that it is a lot of fun. It's quite jovial, and they, it's not a tragic story. It's actually quite an uplifting one. The way the three women rise up against the law to basically prove NASA wrong and prove that women and black women can, work in NASA and do have the knowledge that some of them lack. And I really like that. I really think that's a great, move. The film does a great job of showing the way that the three of them approached each of their sort of their aspirations, essentially. So yeah, there's that, and there's also like this discrimination thing going on. Let's talk about some of the cast. Where are the cast list? We have, I'm just going to name a few that I don't know most of the cast really, so I'm just going to name them. Taragi P. Henson as Catherine, nice job. Octavia Spencer as Dorothy, she's very good. Janelle Monae, is that how you say her name? As Mary Jackson. You also have a couple of others. Kevin Costner, who sort of plays like the head of the space division at NASA, and then you have Kirsten Dunst, who plays another head of a department somewhere. I'm not sure which one, but she's in it. She's in it. She has a small role to play. Those are the main players, really. There's nobody else that really is worth mentioning. Not because they're bad, just because they don't have a huge amount of roles to play. I like the movie. I think it's fun. It's upbeat. You really care about the three leads and their journeys. I do think the movie took a while to get going. It had a couple of pacing issues at the very start, like before Catherine actually started to get working. I was like, okay, come on, we've been here for nearly half an hour. Facebook, every time I'm recording a fucking video. Oh, God's sake. But yeah, no, it was, it took a little bit of time to get going, so they could have perhaps tightened it up a little bit. And yeah, the only other thing I would say about this movie is that it lacks tension. Narratively, it's not great. Basically, it's based on a true story, so for obvious reasons, I don't really see this as a dramatization, because there's not really much drama. There's a little bit of drama with the whole issue of the discrimination, which and the racism, which is built up, and then until halfway in the film when Catherine gives a sort of emotional speech about why she has to go to the bathroom all the time because she's not allowed in the one that's closest to the desk. So she kind of makes a point of saying, you know, she basically says, oh, this isn't fair, you know, why should I have to go all the way over there? You know, excuse me if I have to go all the way over there because your rules have been put in place. And then that's a great moment for Kevin Costner's character to finally stand up and say, no, in NASA we're all the same colour. So, I mean, the discrimination plot is nice, and the film makes a nice point of it. But really, they don't really build up to it much. Like, only we see her just going off all the time, and then it culminates in a massive speech. But we don't really get any other emotional dramas other than that. I mean, there's mostly uplifting moments when, you know, she meets the colonel and she gets married to him. That's very nice. And, you know, there's just no tension for me. There's just not enough tension for me to call this a drama. Like, it's a biography, historical account, essentially. This is basically Theodore Melfi's eye of, like, saying, this is what happened in the 1960s. I mean, sort of the historical aspects are quite interesting, and the use of archive footage is nice. But narratively, there's not enough tension. Just for me, anyway, for me. There's no relationship quarrels between the three of them. There's, you know, there's a couple of moments of distrust from some of the, like, I think his name's Paul, between him and Catherine. It's like he doesn't trust her, and, you know, there's a bit of conflict between there when she's like, you know, I need to be in these meetings, you know, to see all of the readings. So there's flickers of it here and there, but overall, it's not really dramatic, which is the biggest problem I had with it, really. And also, Kirsten Dunst's character, for me, didn't really serve much of a purpose in the story whatsoever. I mean, she played it fine. I mean, you know, she played it fairly well. And Kirsten Dunst is attractive, of course, but that's beside the point. I just felt that her character was basically there just to come in and say, basically keep the coloured women in check, as they say. She does change into a nicer character towards the end, so I guess that's nice, but I thought overall, does this really add anything to the story? I mean, yeah, she makes, what's her name, a supervisor, Dorothy a supervisor, so that's nice. You know, and there's some interesting insights into NASA, I suppose, but yeah, it's just, there's not enough tension for me. That's my biggest problem with it. I mean, there's obviously moments when NASA are like completely behind, they're trying to catch up with the Russians, and there's moments of, you know, lows and highs, but I mean, there's not enough conflict in this movie. So, I can't really give it a huge rating, but I will say that it is a fun movie, and it is worth a watch if you're into this kind of stuff. And the climax of this film is definitely something interesting with the orbit. So if you're a fan of these type of films, then I would recommend you check it out. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words,
groundbreaking, but it's a fun watch, so I give it a shot. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.